Gwen is back. Everybody seems to be back out of the waiting or the breakout room, returning from executive session at 8:09 p.m. And
for all boards.
for all boards, yeah. So all three boards are back in public session at 8:09 p.m. There are three main motions on the floor from all three boards with respect to approval of the central office budget as proposed. Would open up the topic for discussion. And what I'd ask is folks to sort of raise their hand is probably the easiest way to work things around. And
Chris, I'm so sorry. So I have the open motion for Reading Easton, but with Region 9, it was.
they made the same main motion.
Yeah, the
also.
same.
They made the same motion so that we could go to discussion.
Yeah, Karen and Maureen.
That's
Okay,
right.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And then Mike's motion immediately followed, which might have been the
Got it.
confusion.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
All right. Looking
Is there any
for
discussion?
hands. Mike?
So the boards have approved a new position of Director of Digital Learning, and the Region 9 board had a very thoughtful and informative discussion relating to that position at a recent meeting. And I wonder if Dr. Harrison could better articulate and describe the duties of that position, whether or not there are any overlaps or areas where we could save from in areas where duties may be performed by other employees. And again, if you could address, I know we've had some issues with our website, and it's my understanding that this position will be will kind of take on that responsibility, maybe looking to update and revise our website, and whether or not that would include a reorganization of the duties currently administering the website.
Thanks. I could talk about the overall duties. You know, one of the things that we talked about at the Region 9 meeting, and I shared the job description with all board members just to make sure that that everyone had the same information. But one of the things that we talked about was sort of the scope of this position and the Director of Digital Learning and Technology, and essentially who they'd be working with in schools. So we talked about the scope of their duties, really being focused on infrastructure and integration. So from the infrastructure side, really providing leadership support to our network coordinators, our instructional technology coordinator, with a focus on network infrastructure. And then looking at the educational side with integration and providing leadership support to our Region 9's Director of Learning Resources and Ed Tech, Reading's STIC, and our library media specialists, and with a real focus on embedding the ISTE standards for students, teachers, and leaders. We also talked about just the overall level of expertise that they would be bringing to the district in the area of technology overall. We had some discussion about, so what about the website? And currently each of our schools has a designated webmaster, and then as a district, as a tri-district, we have one of our employees who receives a technology stipend. As part of that stipend, one of the things that they help to manage is the website in addition to just overall district communication, and then being able to fill in for some central office tech support when Damien is unavailable to us. So we talked about, you know, what does that look like for this person? I do think that with them bringing in expertise, that they really could guide us on making some needed updates and changes to the ways that we are using our website as far as how we're communicating, bringing a real sense of is this the best product that we can be using? Are there other options for us? I think that I don't see this necessarily replacing the stipend impositions that we have related to webmaster duties at each of the schools or at the central office level. But I do think that there'd be some real clear guidance and direction that would be really helpful for us to look at our website, the product that we're using, and then also just how we're using our website to communicate overall. So really leading us as a district from what is it that we hope to accomplish through our website, and then how do we kind of create a plan in order to get there. So I don't see this as being a position that would immediately result in savings related to the website as far as the stipend positions go. It could be a position that would lead us to some savings with possibly changing products. I know that there are some newer options that may be out there for our website and also for our overall district communication.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My hope is, as a district, that we would try to be mindful of the fact that expansion in all areas is difficult for us as a small district, and that we should, as we try to enhance our structure, we should also look to become as efficient as possible. And if there's a way that we can cover responsibilities in a way to kind of channel our resources to be able to afford the new structure, I think that's something that we should make every effort to do.
Thank you, Mike. Devin, and then Jenny.
Yes, as I said, I think the last meeting, I fully support this director of technology position. I think when I look at the central office, I'm actually really surprised that we have so few people who think about the way our kids learn, that think and support the building leadership and the work that they do. And I think the folks who do that in our central office, thank you, Dr. Pearson-Ugal and Dr. Harrison, you do an amazing job. But for a school district or set of school districts, for a set of schools with a very, very changing school dynamic education landscape, we need to have the ability to meet students' needs and personalized learning. And so when I looked at Dr. Harrison's slide set, it's the role of this person is really to think about how you transform learning to meet the needs of kids in a world that has dramatically changed, in a place where we expect kids to come back to school, many of them up to a year behind. And so in order to meet those needs without expanding staff in the school, adding special ed teachers, adding lots and lots of additional costs, we have the opportunity to put in a leader who can really transform the way we think about instruction and how we use data to have a better approach and a better strategic plan that I think will save us money, even though I don't know if we'll see it right away on the top, because it will save us money in the future, because we have a better approach to how we instruct each child, and a better, like somebody at the central office who's able to support Dr. Ugal and Dr. Harrison in doing that work consistently. And then my second piece is just when I think about salary, I looked at the DERG comparisons, and it's obvious like we're right, I think, where we should be. I think the second piece of that is, I think when we look at building level salaries, we're bringing somebody on, hopefully at a cabinet level position, who's going to be, making something similar to what I think one of our assistant principals or principals. So I don't think we can go much lower than we already are, and find the right person who's going to be able to lead strategically to eventually save us some cost down the line, and also prepare our kids for just an ever-changing world where they really deserve to have, this better personalized learning approach.
Thank you, Devin. Jenny?
Pretty much what Devin said. I just wanted to kind of counter the idea that we bring somebody in and bog them down with small duties. I think we're already, woefully understaffed, as Devin was saying, in leadership positions with people who can think strategically and support everybody beneath them. I don't think it's a good idea to bring somebody in at this level and start to try to pick pieces away from other tasks. That's just not the approach that I want us to see us taking.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other questions or comments on the motions?
This is Colleen. I have a good idea about how to be efficient. We should share this position with Easton. We're already doing that. We're already looking at efficiencies because we share with Easton. This isn't a Reading person. This isn't an Easton person. The towns are working together and we're sharing. That's the efficiency.
Chris, I've got a quick one.
Thank you, Randy.
I think part of this conversation is going to be had in front of the boards of finance in Easton and Reading, and I'll speak on behalf of John and Rydell, because they're going to get very difficult questions from the boards of finance in Easton anyway, and I'm sure the same in Reading. These increases and additions need to be quantifiable to folks that don't spend way too much time at Board of Ed meetings. So as much as Devin made a lot of good points, I'm not sure that, and she was on the Board of Finance, I'm not sure that's going to carry the day at the Board of Finance. I think it needs to be a little bit more tangible and or simplistic for the community, Board of Finance, whatever, to understand why we're doing this and what tangible things we either saw as deficiencies in towns and or we're addressing, or that we're going to take it, we're going to take it here. We don't necessarily have to have a deficiency to add somebody, but we're looking to take it to the next level. And here are the three things or the two things that you're going to see as a community member.
I would suggest that we don't spend too much time dwelling on the addition of the position, as all three boards have adopted the view that the position ought to be added. And we should talk about the impact of that on the central office budget and the main motion right now, which is to approve that which was proposed. To shift the discussion away from that position for a moment, I would ask if Clarence could give us a little bit of context on the request in the professional services line to add Allo View and Golden as vendors for a total increase of $15,000 in that line.
Sure, it's actually more than Allo View and Golden. Those are the two examples we have on working already. Some of this regards security that I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about in a public forum. And I know you just came out of executive session, but I wouldn't want to talk about a security issue in an open forum like this. But one of the vendors is related to I'll talk about the ones that are non-secure related. So we have a current vendor called Frontline that does our attendance. They have additional modules to do time and digitalization of forms. So that right now, someone who is an hourly employee fills out a paper timesheet, which is then manually inputted and then to our system where what time and attendance will digitize that and make it automated. So that's one prospect. AlloView is a financial platform that we layer on top of our new platform to get more transparency to the public. So non-staff or non-employees can, instead of they can literally go online and pull up the information they're looking for. So that includes board members. The Ultra Golden is a software developer who is helping us design some software to help these various platforms sort of speak to each other. So it makes it, removes the sort of manual nature out of that. We have so we have Frontline module, the security related issue, AlloView, and they range between a few thousand to 10 to 15,000 per. So that's why it's more than just those two items. But the one security one, like I said, that was probably $12,000 to $15,000 hit itself. But like I said, I'm not comfortable talking about in the public session, but I'm more than willing to go into executive and tell you exactly what it is.
And that's an annual subscription cost?
Yes. And I could easily, we could have put it out to schools, but to me, it's a central level issue. And I would hate to be in a situation where one decides to have the security, another district doesn't. And then, I just lived an experience in my previous employer where we had this same security issue, and where we didn't have is where we had this product, and where we had the problem is where we didn't have this product. So I just, there's some other issues adding to my desire to want to implement this beyond our security regarding our insurance.
As a practical matter, if I'm hearing you correctly, between some of these vendors, digitizing the time card system will create some efficiencies with respect to the process, both at the building level and at the accounting level in the central office.
Yes, it would remove the manual nature of our current time. We have absence management, which is a current module from Frontline. This would add the timekeeping aspect of it. So right now, if someone, if you imagine, I've sort of, it's not unique to us. It's happening in quite a few districts where people are still filling out timesheets and building principals still approving by hand leave, absence, and time. So that's we sort of get that. So that would free up more time for the building level and at central office to do other things we hope people to be doing.
And the AlloView software would reduce the burden on central office to be responding to unique requests about spending because it would all be publicly accessible.
Correct. Couldn't have said it better myself. I keep hearing this thing about transparency, not just in this district, but other districts. So it's a new platform that sort of solves that holy grail about transparency. It's like, if you want to know, you look it up yourself. It's right there. Next question.
Thank you. Clarence, any other questions or comments from board members on that or any other issues? Cheryl?
It's the follow-up question to the software. So if I'm looking at the Excel version of the central office budget that was emailed to the boards on the 26th of January. So that's all those increases or those three buckets of software are all in that line 330, which is the 33.5K increase.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So it's roughly a third, it sounds like, for each.
Yeah, they're all purchase services. So that's why they're in that account. So all four of them will be like contracts-based subscription contracts.
And are those are yearly subscriptions? So that would be ongoing.
Yes. Like I said,
Okay, so
I could break it out to school levels, but either way, it's, the two towns are paying for it, but I decided to keep it centralized. That way we can control it. And if someone decides, well, I don't need it, but then there's an exposure there. So that's why we kept it at the central level.
And then, to Karen's question, that those are recurring, there's no one-time implementation costs that would presumably be going.
There are some one-time implementation costs that I'm trying to fund out of surpluses from this year because of COVID. So I'm trying to avoid having to deal with that. So this is just I'm waiting on proposals. That would be the cost effective July 1. There'll be some implementation right now, but I'm trying to figure out a way to fund those without having to do it in next year's budget.
Okay. So just presumably this is, again, not necessarily looking for some savings per se or efficiency savings, but I would think that perhaps in the long run that this would lead to, particularly the time management one, the time management software, that over time that would reduce the burden across multiple staff, potentially not just in central office, but across the board, that maybe not necessarily equate to not filling headcount if there are openings, but more time for management to do more thoughtful work. Is that a fair characterization?
That is an accurate description for three of them. One of them is a risk management software. It's more about risk aversion versus efficiency. It's about protecting the districts from a potential threat. The other three are to, as Cheryl, as you described.
Okay, thanks.
Clarence, to your point about centralizing this to, as opposed to dispersing it to the 5 buildings, is the reason that GoGuardian and similar software is dispersed to the 5 buildings just because that's sort of historically what we've done?
That I believe so. Like some things, it's sort of a mismatch, Chris. Some things are dispersed, some things aren't, and it's just sort of, there's no rhyme or reason. So I will acknowledge that we are 3 separate districts, but I focus on viewing it as a holistic whole thing. So I try to offer solutions for the Easton and Reading communities as a whole versus ER9 has this and Reading has this. From
a philosophical perspective, then, if you were to build a budget from scratch, you would look at these services and these software platforms that all 5 schools break out into their budgets as a centralized expense, and your preference would be to carry it in a central office budget.
Yes, it would.
Question.
Heather?
I assume that are we carrying an insurance policy regarding ransomware attacks, and would this affect that at all?
You are currently carrying a policy, but you're about to lose it because your provider has dropped you.
Okay, so we're about to be.
We're
Out
looking
mute.
for.
What you wanted to talk about in private session?
So
This is the insurance carrier that's dropped us, or the provider of a particular software service?
the insurance carrier has
Aye.
dropped us effective July 1, and I'm trying to implement procedures to help us become more attractive to another carrier. Otherwise, having just had this experience in my last district, it's not a pleasant experience. So I'm trying to take procedures to make sure it's basically paying for insurance. This
Right, so
platform is basically,
this could potentially have a savings of millions of dollars.
if you're unfortunate to need this, it could, but it's like your life insurance. You pay for it,
Right.
but you hope you never need it.
So, Clarence,
Well-
could you just clarify when you said July 1, what year?
Of 2021.
Thank you. So we still have insurance right now.
We have
Right.
insurance. We've been given our notice that we need to procure more. I will say this, Easton has already procured through the town a replacement policy. We're trying to find one at this point for ER9 in Reading, but that came through the town. So the town's funding that expense, but I've got to find a solution for Reading and ER9. But any solution we find, it could also just come down affecting the rate we get based if we have certain protocols in place. So I'm trying to, before I go out to Mark, say, look, I have all these protocols in place, give me a lower rate. But if I don't have it in place, I'm at the mercy of an ever shrinking marketplace. And I think you all understand what happens if you have fewer vendors in a marketplace, what happens to our options.
And our price point.
That was my point when I said options.
Yep.
Everyone has a price, let's say. Any other questions, comments for Clarence or otherwise on the motions that are pending?
Yeah, I had a question on the, object 330, the tech consultant. This be just clarity on what that consultant is for, since it's increasing 500. Is it related to the software services or something different?
I think that's an existing one, and I think that's just an annual contractual increase. That I didn't touch that. It was already in the budget as when I assumed it from Scott.
The comment in the spreadsheet says that the $500 is a provision for additional Power School support.
Yeah,
for what
so
that's
I
worth.
say that I don't know the details behind that, but I suspect, like I said, that was there before.
But
I
it-
assumed the budget.
So line 3, so it's related to 330. I'm just trying to get clarification.
Power School-
We're adding consultant in a separate line than the Power School line.
No, I think that the
Services.
330 the Power School, it should be in the purchase services, but I don't know who that consultant is. So I don't know if there's some individual person we have. Like I said, that was in the budget prior to my arrival. So it's very little I changed in Scott's budget since he had already presented to you all. I didn't want to change too much since he had already presented to you all in the fall. But I can get further details if you want. I don't know if it's related to what part of Power Schools. We have various modules of Power School. So I don't know which particular module it relates to.
And we'd still see this as something that would be necessary with the new director. I'm thinking this is the kind of sort of streamlining that
don't
the
know.
public will be looking for.
I'd have to figure out what the purpose of that is, and not knowing which module of Power School it was relating to, I couldn't respond directly whether the new proposed director could address it or not.
So Gwen, to that point, I mean, I think that hiring a new director, they're likely going to come in with some expertise in Power School. It is the SIS that's being used in majority of districts. There are some really unique pieces of Power School that not every district uses. And so there could be still, regardless of who we hire, unless we hire just somebody to come in and do Power School, which I think would be hiring somebody with a limited skill set based on the scope of everything that we want to cover. But I think that we could anticipate even in the future, once this position is in place, that we would still need some plug areas related to Power School. So for instance, one of the things that we have this year that we've not had before is in Power School is a module just to assist with contact tracing. And that was something that one of our Power School leaders in the district was really able to help put into practice and do some training with some of her colleagues. So I think that we could potentially continue to see some of those pieces going forward, but they'd be more kind of focused and directional.
Thank you.
Cheryl?
I had a question about line 114, the defined contribution, and which is an increase of 22,490 because there was no amount last year. And then there is also a decrease in the pension, line 235 of 9,286. So I believe that's the setup of the 457, or I think, or actually maybe you could help me understand what that is, what those two
Most
are.
of that relates directly to me because originally when I was hired under the structure of Scott being in the 401A. I expressed my preference to the chairmans about not being in that and doing a traditional 403B or 457. So most of that's just a reclassification from the 401A to a 403B/457. So it's just reclassifying most of it.
Okay, so it's not related to that setup of the new plan that we
No, because mainly it has to go into 403B. The new plan is just an added sort of benefit without any financial implications.
Okay, great, thanks.
Questions, comments? If there are no further questions or comments, we can call the question. Hearing none, I believe the motion originated in Reading, then went Eastern Region 9. So we'll call the question in Reading. Heather?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
John?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Chris Hocker?
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion carries 6-1 in Reading.
And call the question in Easton. Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you. Devin?
Yes.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yes.
Thank you. Randy?
Yes.
Thank you. Jenny?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. The motion passes 6-0.
And we'll call the question in Region 9. Start with Karen.
Todd, just for clarification, this is for the whole budget that we're voting on?
That is correct. The entire central office budget.
Yes.
So I need a yes or a no.
Yes.
Thank you. Gwen? Sorry, you're muted. I think that was a yes, but I
Yes.
want to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Maureen,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Mary Lee,
Yes.
Juliet,
Yes.
thank you. Mike? You're muted.
I'm going to abstain.
All right. And I'll vote, I'm going to go vote yes. So we will have 7 and 1 abstain, so it passes Region 9.
The motion is agreed to by all 3 boards, and that concludes possible action 4A, which brings us to topic 5, public comment. Any members of the public wishing to comment, please raise your hand with the reactions button, the participants window, wave or jump about. I don't see anybody. John or Todd?
Not yet. Maybe we just give everyone a second just to make sure. Nope.
Don't see anyone.
Moving on to item 6, board member comments. Start in Easton.
Any members of the Easton board care to make comment? I think that's no from us.
Okay. Reading. Anyone in Reading? Chris Hocker.
I do. Try to make it brief. Tonight and in previous tri-board meetings, we've bumped up against this whole question of how did the 3 boards govern themselves and how do they come to agreement, and what issues are subject to the famous mechanism for resolving agreements and what issues are not. And we bumped up against this before. This comment is not directed at any given board because I've been around long enough to see different boards express different things at different times. And so what I'm trying to say is, could someone please, and I'll do it, okay, draft up a set of rules that we can all agree to, or try to draft up a set of rules, and then we can bang it around and agree to it. But there's no contract or relationship among parties that I'm aware of that doesn't have a clause for resolving disputes. And yet we're relying on old guys like me to reach back into our institutional memory and say, well, this is the way, this is what happened in 2014 and, or 20, whatever. And you know as well as I do that A, memory is not always perfect. And B, sometimes you have a tendency to reach back for a precedent in order to fit your agenda of the moment. And we got to stop doing it this way. And I don't care if it's resolved with rock, paper, scissors, however you want to do it. But there's no relationship among parties that doesn't have written rules. And it's time somebody did that. And I'm serious. I mean, I'll write you up rock, paper, scissors just to get a starting point and get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Chris. At the risk of starting discussion, this has been raised several times at the policy committee. In fact, there's a particular intent in our March meeting cycle to have just this discussion, and we'd be happy to have you or any other board member present. In fact, we've discussed about having it instead of our Friday mornings in the evening to facilitate as many board members present as possible.
Right.
All right. Let me know. Rock, paper.
Any other comment from Reading this evening? Thank you. Todd, Region 9?
Yep, Region 9. Any board member comment? Let's see, Mike, go ahead.
Again, I'm not gonna, my intent's not to begin a lengthy discussion. And I hear what Mr. Hocker is saying, but for 65 years, the boards have functioned together and there is a mechanism for breaking a deadlock in a central office budget matter. We do have to remember that we still are 3 separate boards, even though I believe that many wish we were one united board. We are 3 separate boards.
Show it to me in writing.
But my comment that I wanted to say tonight is, and the reason for the discussion and my vote is, I think that it's difficult. We have a new superintendent, we have a new finance director, but I think that it's important that we're given the type of information that we really need to be able to make some of these difficult decisions and to be able to articulate to the public why we made these decisions. And so I think it's important, and I would stress moving forward that we should know what's in the budget and why it's in the budget and everything that's in the budget. I mean, that's kind of what our role is. And so it would make it easier to be able to, again, to decide on the level of funding, and also to be able to articulate to the public if we had a greater awareness of everything that's in the budget and why it's in the budget. So again, I thank the administrators for coming in with a short timeline and presenting what we received, but I would still, I still am seeking greater clarification moving forward. I think it would make it easier.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from Region 9? Cheryl?
I just, I will take the policy committee up on its promise and promise to try to join the next meeting. I completely agree, regardless of whether we're 3 separate boards or how we operate. I completely agree. We should memorialize something so that the people who come behind us, who serve respectively, can remember what we the entities agreed to do, and I'm willing to consider rock, paper, scissors.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from Region 9? All right. Thank you.
That concludes board member comment. We'll look for a motion to adjourn from
Let's start in Easton.
Easton.
So moved.
I see Randy and then Jeff second.
You can go ahead and call it, John.
Thank you. Anyone opposed in Easton? Very good. We are adjourned at 8:44 p.m.
All right, why don't we do Region 9?
Sure. Region 9, motion to adjourn. See Gwen, second. Cheryl, anyone opposed? We are adjourned at 8:44.
Reading, motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I heard John and I see Heather seconding. Any objection? If there's no objection, we are adjourned and the tri-board meeting is adjourned at 8:45 p.m.
Thanks, everybody. Good
record.
night.